I'm going to say something that some people will find very, very contentious. And that is that I feel more love for atheists than I do for religious bigots. Honestly, I will, if you send me to an island with 3 people and those 3 people would be religious bigots, I can choose 3 religious bigots or 3 atheists. I will pick the atheists any day of the week. Why? Why? Because, and I'm not, let me explain. I believe honestly that the atheist fraternity, well, there are many different types of atheists. You get atheist bigots also, right? So I'm not excluding them for now. I'm counting them with the religious bigots. But when I'm saying atheist, what I mean is somebody that is rationally arriving at the position that there is no justification for the idea, or he's not convinced that there is a God. That is what I mean when I say an atheist, right? And why I'm giving you this introduction is I want to actually talk about a debate that took place here locally in our country, in Johannesburg, the other big city, the main city of South Africa, the commercial hub. At the University of Johannesburg, there was the famous Salafi cowboy duo, Muhammad Hejab and Hamza Dzordzis. They were here, and they had a debate, and they confronted 2 atheists, which I think, I don't know these gentlemen, the atheists, but I think they appeared to be very decent guys. I wasn't in Johannesburg, Cape Town, which is about a 2-hour flight from Johannesburg. But I saw the video. A friend of mine shared it with me. He is at this university, a lecturer there. And I can tell you that I was just again reminded how much I abhor, how much I dislike the cowboy Salafists, the bigoted Muslim, the brainless Muslim. And I will rather have a relationship, an engagement with the atheist. By the way, if you think, Anwar, now you kafir, you're going to hell for that. No. Let me remind you first and foremost, before you send me to hell, let me remind you, who was the first criminal? Who is the most detested figure in the scriptures of Islam, in the Muslim scripture? Who is the most detested? Who is the prime evil in our scriptures? It is Satan or Iblis, right? And why is he so detested? Why is he so detested? Remember, he's the most evil, right? He's the deceiver, the one that deceives and misleads. And we know the story of Iblis. It's there in the Qur'an. He used to be a worshipper. He was a believer. Iblis, many of you don't realize it, but he's a monotheist. He's not a polytheist. He is a monotheist. He's a Muslim. For heaven's sake, Iblis in the Qur'an, if you read the story of Iblis as it appears at a number of occasions, he's a Muslim. He's a believer. He's not an atheist. And yet he's the most despised character. When we say his name, we say Shaitan Ar-Rajim, the accursed, the condemned. We always reject him. We despise him. That his name is called Shaitan Ar-Rajim, the despised, the despicable. So that despicable character is a Muslim in the Quran. Was a Muslim, started out as a Muslim, but was filled to his neck in arrogance, filled with religious self-righteousness, filled with racism. And by racism, I mean being self-centered, elevating himself. And so that is the despicable nature of Shaitan, of the Iblis, is not because he's an atheist. No, it's because he's a Muslim, but he's an arrogant. He's self-righteous. He looks down on others. And so, does that make sense? Do you see why I'm saying that I have more affinity for an atheist who is a sincere seeker than I have for these bigots? Now, let me come to this debate. You see, this debate exposes that very, very same reality that I'm talking to you about now. That debate exposes the Muslims that are participating there as the bigots. And so let me give you why I'm saying this. Like, I'm not going to go into the merits of the debate, but let me give you the three tactics that they use. And we must remember that there is certain crafts or trades, or what is the word, skills that the devil uses to deceive, to dupe, to redirect. Those are skills that the devil possesses that were taught to mankind. There's a verse in the Qur'an. Let me quickly get hold of that verse quickly, and I'll just take a look at this verse here. وَاتَّبِعُوا مَا تَتْلُو الشَّيَاطِينُ عَلَى مُلْكِ سُلَيْمَانَ. They subscribe to what evil masterminds spread about the dominion of Solomon. So Solomon suffered similar slander, right? Solomon was never the blasphemer. On the contrary, the evil masterminds blasphemed. They taught people, here comes the main point that I'm trying to make, they taught people the art of deception using knowledge that was given to two angels at Babylon called Harut and Marut. They taught people the art of deception using knowledge that was given to two angels at Babylon called Harut and Marut. So this ancient craft of deception was taught at Babylon, which is also the seat of the growth of Talmudic Judaism, right? And so this knowledge, this art of deception, is something that is there. It exists, and it consists of a few tricks and ways in which to cajole, to mislead, to sort of redirect people's thinking. And there's another verse also, quickly. Let me just quickly get this other verse also. Check this verse also. This is at chapter 31, verse 6. Then there is the type who deal in curious chatter, using non-intellectual means to divert people from the path of God, turning God's true way into a farce. These people shall suffer an embarrassing punishment. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَشْتَرِي لَهْوَ الْحَدِيثِ. The word hadith is there, can you see? Curious chatter, lahwa al-hadith. Any person who speaks Arabic can challenge me in the comments. Curious chatter, lahwa al-hadith. The verse also occurs in Surah Jumu'at, when people ran after curious chatter and left the Prophet standing. In lahwan aw tijaratin faddu wa tarakuka qa'iman. When they spot something that is curious, they run headlong and leave you standing down in the dumps, you Prophet. So this thing of lahwa al-hadith, of people being attracted to this stupidity, entertaining talk, exhilarating or curious ways of conjuring up stories, لِيُضِلَّ عَنْ سَبِيلَ اللَّهِ, to mislead, to redirect people from the path of Allah. بِغَيْرِ عِلْم. بِغَيْرِ ilm means using non-intellectual means. بِغَيْرِ ilm. Unbased, unsound, intellectually baseless. Right? بِغَيْرِ ilm. Ilm means intellectual knowledge and, بِغَيْرِ ilm. وَاتَّخِذُوهَا هُزْوًا. And then they started taking it for a joke. أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. Every word in the Quran is perfectly chosen. There is an embarrassment in store for them, and an embarrassing punishment in store for them. So, coming back to this debate, every trick in the book they use, and I'm going to give you 3 tricks that they use, and I'll maybe show you a few clips that to show you how they do it. Like the first one they use is grandstanding. Now, grandstanding is where you have a number of supporters, generally uneducated audience, fanboys as we call them. And these fanboys are mindless, brainless people, or they have at least very limited thinking powers. But they have some affinity to you. They like your way that you dress, they like your physique, they like your way of speaking. You say something that they like, and they're your fanboys. So in the debate, instead of debating the issue, you start playing to the gallery. You start playing to your fanboys. And you are seeking, or you are inviting, or you are trying to elicit a cheering, a clapping, a sense of support for you, and in that way psychologically try to intimidate your opponent. Now let me show you an example of that, how that is used.
Call that the necessary being the independent one God. Obviously the atheists
Here's Hejab speaking,
theory,
appealing to his fanboys. They're all there. You can see them with the
so what do we have left? We have an infinite chain. An infinite chain of dependent things. But an infinite chain of dependent things is an absurd proposition. The reason being, because if this was actualized in the actual world, for example, through an infinite amount of multiverses, then it would imply that the inexhaustible has been the unlimited has been limited.
Just check at the posture. Is that the posture of a humble servant of God? Is that, God says, in Surah Luqman, Allah speaks to via Luqman. Luqman advises his son. Luqman being the man that I believe to be what is it? The famous Egyptian wise man. I'll get to the name again, but where he says, "Do not walk with your chest out like that. Walk humbly on this earth." You see, and here we see the exact opposite behavior. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that grandstanding. Keep looking, and I'm going to get to
which is a contradiction, which is absurd. It would also imply that infinite sets exist within infinite sets. I could actually put to the table is to say naturalism can explain just as well, he says. He's not even trying to say it's better. He's trying for equality. He's got a Nelson Mandela approach to the situation.
Do you see what I mean? Now that happens over and over. That happens over and over. And right now he's invoking Mandela because that is an image. He's using imagery. Mandela being a well-loved character globally, although I'm an exception to that. Well-loved of all those people who love him. I don't share that view of Mandela. But he invokes Mandela. So he immediately comes here to South Africa. I don't think he's ever been in any social struggle or anything, but he's appropriating the name of a known favorite personality, Mandela, and he's playing on the black-white thing because the two atheists are these two guys here. From what I could see, pretty decent guys, but he's expropriating that legacy of Mandela, and he does it over and over. He actually expropriates the whole struggle legacy in South Africa, planting himself there as somebody that can be associated with the black liberation struggle. For heaven's sake, your religious people chased us out of the mosque for trying to defend. Your Salafist friends in South Africa chased us out of the mosque when we tried to defend fight the apartheid struggle. So I absolutely don't buy that nonsense. Let me just show you another case where he uses that grandstanding.
Whatsoever, and you mentioned it's mentioned in the books of fiqh, it's not mentioned in any book whatsoever. Then you mentioned Khomeini, who was an obscure figure. So my question is,
he just reduced one of the greatest figures of the 20th and the 21st century, Ayatollah Khomeini, as an obscure figure. The man that literally reshaped and redirected the way the world sees religion, and he just marginalized him as a YouTube celebrity. Just gave himself the right to deride a man that actually caused waves throughout the planet.
As an atheist, you have
But that's not the point I'm trying to make. I want to show you more of this
the
grandstanding.
audacity to say our requirements of moral philosophy, as if the white man's moral philosophy is all of our moral philosophies. No, we have different.
Now, here he's raising the issue of the white man. I mean, he's living in Britain. He's going to Western universities. His partner there, Hamza George, I think he's a white man. I think he's a Greek. So, you know, some of his famous people, the famous Salafist Muhaddith Albani, who changed, half of their hadiths and declared them weak, a guy that they worship, is from Albania. In other words, he's also a white man. So maybe he's associating certain philosophy with white philosophy. But then I think that's even wrong, because a lot of the philosophy in the West is intermingled with Arab philosophy. Western philosophy went via the Greeks to the Arabs through people like Averroes or Ibn Rushd, Ibn Arabi, and then ended up in the West. We have a shared mixed legacy. There is no white legacy or brown legacy. The Arabs inherited much of what is considered to be Jewish or Israelite practice and legacy. So are they going to condemn the Arabs also?
Divine command theory, we have Qur'an, we have Sunnah, we have our own way of deriving morals. What objective proof do you two have that the deontological ethics of Immanuel Kant and or the veil of ignorance of John Rawls, who's a liberal, both of them are liberal in a sense, and or any of the...
Okay, wait. I think in the interest of time, let me just tell you that he's coming to another sort of one of the tricks of deception, and that is to, which is not demagoguery, but chicanery. Right? It is using subterfuge, right? To use underhand tactics to counter the position of the opponent. So what he's doing now is, instead of answering the man, that man, I'm not going to play that, but that man just asked him, why does Islam preach that you should kill the apostate? Why does Islam preach that you should throw the gay person off a building? Which is not in the Qur'an, right? That man just brought up these very interesting issues. Maybe one or two issues he brought up that they had no basis, but most of the issues he brought up, that atheist guy, was questioning the validity of Islam and raising these severe, unjust, sort of inhuman positions which Islam takes. Now, the subterfuge that hijab commits here is that instead of defending Islam, he can't defend it. Obviously, who can defend that nonsense of killing an apostate? So he has no defense. So what does he do? He goes and he attacks Western philosophy. And that is what I refer to as chicanery.
The consequentialist ethics of any of the utilitarian thinkers of the modern day is objectively true.
So first of all, I think you play a very dangerous game when you attach secular ethics to race, and you rob people who are of many races of their human rights. Like when you say that...
That's a very valid point. You play a dangerous game when you're bringing race into ethics.
It's a white man's game to talk about rights.
No,
I'm actually proud of my South African white compatriots here. They're atheists, and I'm actually feeling much more affinity towards them.
Unabolish suffering.
No, I didn't say it's a white man's race. It's a white man's game to talk about rights. I said that what you've mentioned,
because he didn't expect that,
is a Western form of ethics. Is the ones who the knowledge.
But you see, part of the subterfuge is to make these guys white, right? And to start attacking them because they are whites, and not to address the point. The point that this guy made, I didn't play that part, was where he said that the apostate must be killed, some people must be burnt, thrown. He was raising the abhorrent, nasty beliefs that hijab does uphold. And now he responds by telling him he's a white man, that's why he's evil, his philosophy is evil because it comes from white society. He's committing that subterfuge here, right? He's absolutely not arguing the point. He's now being ad hominem. But this guy here, the South African guy here, the white guy on the left, he gives him a proper answer because he's got no right to speak about whites. He's sitting next to a white man. That guy, Zotzis, is a born and bred Greek man, he became Muslim. So, I mean, Greece was a pro-apartheid country. Greece never supported the anti-apartheid struggle. And I don't think Hejab also did. So this guy here, he might in fact have been an anti-apartheid activist. I don't know him. But later on it does appear that he was actually an anti-apartheid activist. So coming and just outing the man or denigrating him on the basis of being a white man, that's utter bull.
Those producers were objectively white men, objectively from the liberal tradition in Europe.
You'll know about the genetic fallacy.
I'm not saying it's false. I'm asking you why it's true.
Yes. So let's first. I just first want to deal with this question of saying we can assess the content of the ideas by looking at the race and the sex of the speakers.
You said our moral philosophy. You've included me in your morality. I'm asking you to prove your morality before you say our moral. I don't subscribe to your morality.
Yeah, this is the type of tricks that they play. You see, they're not arguing the point right now. They've left the point. They've actually now engaged the new idea, and they're trying to debate now how the white man is evil, which is just a foolish nonsense debate. There's no inherent evil in white men different to what the evil in the Arab or the evil in the Chinese or the evil in the Nigerian. We all are capable of evil. And right now, what is required is for him to argue the point and not to attack the man or to attack the man's racial sort of makeup. But that is the second thing. So I've raised 2 points here that I believe that these guys are using, these tricks of deception. The first one is grandstanding. And I'm not going to show you more of that, but the point is that he plays to this crowd. The guys with the Muslim headgear, the guys with the long beards. He's playing to that crowd. They invited him, in fact. Right. The second thing he does is subterfuge, is deflect, it's misdirect, and bringing up other issues instead of dealing with the issues. And the third thing he does is demagoguery. Demagoguery is where he actually appeals to certain deeply held beliefs, right? And he establishes himself, he erects himself as a defender of those sacred, deeply held core beliefs. He presents himself as a defender of the people and in their camp. But of course, he's a liar and a deceiver, and he uses the simple tricks in the trade that the devil, that Shaitan, uses. But let us quickly look at an example of that thing.
To say about talking about Prophet Muhammad and Salman Rushdie and homosexuality and attacking Islam. I'm telling you, respond to my arguments. Instead of trying to tell me off like a little boy, trust me, I'm not a little boy. In every single man, I'm a bigger man than
He's heating up his fanboys, his crowd, he's heating up. But do pay attention, it's not actually a big part of the crowd, because I do believe South African Muslims are not as dumb as they think we are. And there are lots of people in that crowd. In fact, the organizers have shocked them by taking a position against them, by being very critical of them. But here he's using his demagoguery. He's presenting himself now as being fighting for his rights, fighting for the rights of Islam.
Why is it that your one is objectively true? Go and answer the question, please.
You have to write it down, sir. So, sorry, sir, we haven't settled this yet. So the issue is not being told what to say or how to say it, right? The issue is that there's a
structural apartheid, the way you're being dealt with right now. That's what I'm telling you.
He's claiming structural apartheid, but that university is controlled by black. The vice chancellor of that university is black. The person who chairs this gathering is a person of color or is a brown person. There is no apartheid relevant in this whole discussion, but yet he sees it fit to invoke apartheid. Why? Because that's demagoguery. He's trying to present himself as defending himself against an unjust oppressor and falsely so establishing himself like that. And he's got his fan
In the
base.
way I want to speak.
So
No one has told me I can't
let me
speak
say
with a
this.
certain
Let me
voice.
put it this
I
way.
would
right?
like to be dealt with properly here.
Let me put it this
Do you know
way.
what I'm saying? So just answer my questions. I don't want to be told how to speak. With all due respect,
Listen,
I'm coming from.
I'm speaking.
Nobody's telling him not to speak, but he's making that claim right now because he can't answer the valid criticism that people leveled against him and his religion.
Speaking to you in a way.
You're being sanctimonious and you're trying to be the schoolboy teacher.
No.
Now he's attacking the presiding officer, the chairperson of the gathering, the chairman also.
You're not here for that.
No.
But you know what? This guy's much too decent to go down to his level.
No. I actually.
You spent 3 minutes actually in our panel discussion.
My views
That
are
wasn't
closer
agreed.
to
That wasn't
yours.
agreed.
I'm not an atheist.
Oh, it doesn't matter what you
My
are.
views are closer
Listen to that. I'm not an atheist. Doesn't matter what you are.
to yours.
So,
And I recognize
Fuck this, please.
the issue.
something to say.
You see, the chairperson is, I would guess a Muslim. Maybe, I'm not sure he's a Christian, but maybe he's a Muslim. But even he is offended by this obnoxious character, the Salafist cowboy. And actually, there's a point towards the end where another member of the chair of the mediation panel, whatever they call them, addresses Hejab. Actually, I've had him on my channel here, Sheikh Shahid Matiz. We've had video together, and he appears towards the end where he actually tries to rein in these guys. Because what happens is a question comes up, another
I'm going to
valid
take
question.
sides either way in this, but I felt, Evan started off by presenting an argument that ostensibly is an argument about evil. And then Muhammad came in and said, you
Professor
denied
Shaik
evil.
Matiz.
Objectively, a substratum.
Okay, and you said actually there's just
Right, so let's quickly go on.
good and there's a lack of good. So
Yeah,
is the good something that admits of degree, so you can have greater or lesser good?
Yes.
But then the argument still goes through, because all that's needed for the argument to go through is for you to have less good. So,
Okay, no, but with all due respect, I
so
think
the notion of evil is a red herring. That's not how the argument works.
What my point in response to that was that evil doesn't have an ontological status. You cannot put it, it's not substratum, you cannot put it under a microscope. I'm not making a point about the relational type of.
Wait, let's just quickly look at the final clip here. And that is now another member of the organizers, the mediation panel. I don't know what they call them, but the university allowed these two guys to come and be part of this so-called debate that they call. And but one of the agreements was that they had to allow the audience to question them. And obviously they were trying to run away from that. And so time was running out. There was also a cap of like 2 hours put on the event, and they just carried on and on and on. They hogged the mic. They never, I think the speaking time of the two atheist speakers was way less than the amount of time that they demanded, right? And so my good friend Sheikh Shahid Mati is raising that question. And you can see the obnoxious behavior of these guys.
Just a moment.
Blind, cold, and non-rational.
Sorry. We have 4 gentlemen. Time is limited.
Oh, sorry.
And with this,
I wanna
you
be
are
thorough,
negating all these other people. There's a chair.
Why do you have to
and
say this?
No, sorry.
He's trying to bring them back to the original agreement that there would be enough time given for the audience to ask questions. And obviously time is busy running out.
You have to say this. No, I haven't spoken that much.
No,
Can we give
Why do you have to always
everybody a
diminish?
round of applause for that?
I'm trying to appeal to them.
Sorry. We're getting you out of order. I have to override my check you out of order.
So he rules them out of order. And I think they did not leave very satisfied. I do think they got a bit of a bloody nose here in South Africa. They had their fanboys, yes, the mindless hand clappers sitting there that you can even see if you look at the audience. They had those mindless people cheering for them. But I think all in all, I'm very proud of the organizers, how the university has dealt with it. They haven't given them a free rein. They haven't flinched. They haven't stood back and felt intimidated by these fools, because that's what they intimidate. They've got big mouths and they've got nothing to back it up. they've got nothing to back it up. I know these people. And they come with their rubbish Islam, the Islam that Great Britain helped them make powerful, because without Saudi Arabia, Salafist Islam would be where it was all the time, in obscurity. But because of Britain, Salafist Islam is now a big thing in the world. And because America supported Al-Qaeda and ISIS and the Taliban and promoted this destabilization using these rogue elements, they've seen fit to use that little bit of oxygen that was created for them and now flourish in the West and promoting their vile, repugnant form of Islam. And so I'm glad they got taught a lesson here by my good friend and by others, and that they were cut down to size. My friends, the more important point that I'm trying to raise here is that these are not people of intellectualism. These are people, as the Qur'an says, who engage in games. They engage in curious chatter. The ideas are not cogent. The ideas are just appealing to emotions, are just appealing to grandstand. It's like grandstanding, making, it's tribalism, it's charges of false victimhood, racism, and all of this. And this is the tools that they use. This is the tools of the devil. And I leave you with it. Alhamdulillah.